Okay, so today we are going to code the slot machine. That way, what we're going to do is we're going to have a little program that starts with 100 tokens, and then we'll generate 3 random numbers to represent each of the slots. And when the user chooses to pull the little slot machine, it's going to set those random numbers, and then we'll kind of evaluate those numbers with if statements. If they get all of the same number, they win 10 tokens. If they get 2 of a kind, they get 5 tokens. Otherwise, they're going to lose a token. And we're going to use this to demonstrate random numbers, and we're also going to demonstrate loops. So pause the video if you need and get this code in just kind of as a framework for your slot machine, and you can follow along with me as you go. Okay, so now that you have that in, we're going to need a couple of objects. We're going to create a random number generator. It's called random. We're going to say random. I'm going to name it generator. And that will allow us to generate random numbers. Now we need our scanner. Our scanner is going to help us read from the keyboard. So I'm going to say scanner console equals new scanner, just like you did in the last program. Okay, we're going to need a couple of variables. We need an int to represent the input that the user is going to be typing. We need an int to represent the tokens. And I'm going to just set that equal to 100 because we specified up here that they're going to start with 100 tokens. Next, we need 3 variables to represent the 3 little positions on our slot machine. Those are all going to be ints. They're going to be whole numbers. So I'm going to call it I slot 1, I slot 2, and I slot 3. Now, since all of these variables are of type int, I can declare them on one line like this. If they were different types, I couldn't. Now I'm just going to do a system.out.print statement to display the name of my program, slot machine. Kind of allows us to test to see if it's working at the same time. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to print out the tokens, and I'm going to tell them a little prompt that they have to press 1 to pull the slot or 2 to quit. So here we're going to just have a few system.out.print line statements. Let's tell them how many tokens they have. What did I call the tokens? I tokens. And that's, at this point, that's going to print out 100. But later on, as they win or lose tokens, it'll keep track because we're going to be repeating this code. So the next thing I want to print out is a little message that says press 1 to pull or 2 to quit. Now, since I have that message, I need to read in that information. My input that I'm reading that in is this variable called input. So I'm going to say input equals, and I'm going to use my scanner, which is called console, dot next int, and that will read in our int value. Okay, so now here's where I'm going to generate my slots for the random number. I'm going to set these equal to random numbers and then display them. So I'm going to say I slot 1 equals, and my generator is called generator. So generator dot next int. Okay, so from here back to the lecture, we have our range. How many numbers do we want? You can put anything you want. I'm going to keep mine a little smaller to make the range of the possibility of getting all 3 the same a better possibility. So I'm going to do a random number between 1 and 3. That means my range is 3 possible numbers. So I'm going to put 3 for my range, and I want the random numbers to start at 1. By default, they start at 0. So this is the random number generator. It sets it to a random number, either 1, 2, or 3. Now I want to do the same thing with my second and my third one, and then I'll print out all of those values in a system.out.print statement. PRINT-LN, sorry about that. So I'm going to print out I slot 1. Then I'm going to put some space. Then I'm going to print out I slot 2, print some space again, and then plus I slot 3. So at this point, all this is going to do if I compile and run my program is it's just going to tell me, do I want to pull? If I say pull, it's going to print out my 3 random numbers. Now, I also want to evaluate these and say if they win or lose tokens, but not only that, I want to stick it into a for loop or some type of loop that will keep repeating until they choose to quit. So my if statement to determine if I win or lose, I want to say, well, if all 3 of them are the same. So if I slot 1 is equal to I slot 2, but I also want if 1 is equal to 3. I want all 3 have to be the same to win. So I'm going to use and in this situation. I'm going to say if I slot 1 is equal to I slot 3. Now if 1 is equal to 2 and 1 is equal to 3, we can assume that 2 is already equal to 3, and that means they've win. So I'm going to print out a statement that says you win 10 tokens. And then I'm also going to update my tokens variable. My tokens variable is called iTokens, and I can do this one of 2 ways. I could say iTokens equals iTokens plus 10. That's one way of doing it. I can also, if I want to use the shortcut version, I can also say iTokens plus equals 10. That does the same thing. So now this if statement is very similar to the next if statement I want to do. I'm going to do an else statement that determines if 2 of the if statements are equal. And just to save me on a little bit of typing, I'm going to copy and paste my first if statement because it is very similar. But this time I just want to see if 2 are equal, any 2. So I'm going to check 1 against 2. Just like, but instead of using this and, I'm going to use an or, and I want to see if 1 is equal to 3. But in this situation, if 2 of them are equal, I also need to check if 2 is equal to 3. So I'm going to say if I slot 2 equals I slot 3, then they're only going to win 5 tokens this time. So I'm going to update my variable with 5. My last statement is if they lose. So if they lose, once again, I want to use this same logic. I just want to modify it for a losing situation. So instead of saying that they win, they're going to say you lose a token. And then instead of a plus equals, I'm going to do a minus equals, and they're just going to lose 1. Okay, so let's kind of look over this logic. If this is true, it's going to skip the rest of these if statements. It's not going to run them. If this one is not true, then it will check this statement. If this statement is not true, then it will just automatically run this. So at this point, our program logic is pretty much there. The problem is it only runs one time. So here I can choose to press 1 to pull, and here it'll say that I win, but my program stops and doesn't let me go again. Now, I'm going to add a loop, and we have to figure out which loop we want to add. So we're going to go back to a for loop. A for loop is when you know how many times you want the loop to repeat. Well, we don't know how many times they want to play this game, so we're not going to use a for loop. Well, that leaves us either a while loop or a do while loop. A while loop means that we want the loop to if we want the loop to repeat at least one time, we're going to use a do while. In this case, we want them to allow them to say to choose to pull or quit. So we're going to add our do statement. We're going to do a test at the bottom, do while. I'm going to put the statement do at the top, and just so I can see, I'm going to tab all of this over so all of this information is inside my do loop. Then I'm going to add my while. This while. And I need some sort of condition that so long as this condition is true, it's going to repeat this code. Well, we've kind of already got that built in with our input. So long as they keep pressing 1, we're going to keep playing this game. So long as input is equal to 1, it's going to repeat this code. So at this point, my program is now done. And if I run it, I have an error. What is with my error? I am missing, here's my opening bracket for my do. I need a closing bracket for my while. So that way this bracket matches up with this one. So I run that now, and it says operation complete, and I can say, okay, there's my tokens. I'm going to press 1 to play this game, and I win because I have 2 equal. If I press 1 again, I get a 1, 3, and a 2. I lost a token, and I'm going down. And you can keep going and playing this game until you choose 2 to quit. I'm going to totally quit while I'm ahead. So, well, that is the end of the slot machine. You can easily use this logic to code the war game. Let me know if you guys have any questions.